For the last couple of months, a lot of people have been asking me the same thing. Society has come to a screeching halt because one question has plagued the mind of everyone in it. When is Charles White going to return to GTA 5 roleplay in the NoPixel server? There's a couple of questions that have always haunted our species. Where did we come from? Why do we exist? Are we alone in the universe? And will Charles White ever revisit the beautiful city of Los Santos and finally come home? So many people have written Christmas cards to Santa Claus already, all asking for the same present under the tree. A return of Charles White to the NoPixel server. They've been crying out, "Save us, Charles!" And like Rorschach, I've whispered, no. On stream, I've answered this a lot of times why I haven't played GTA RP in a while, but I feel like you deserve more than that. You deserve a thorough explanation for why I've been inactive on the server. The main reason I haven't done GTA RP in a while is because my character just doesn't fucking work in it anymore. The city has evolved well past the need of Charles White to be in it. Pretty much all of the players in NoPixel have like full-time jobs in the universe. And it's really entertaining to watch, and I think that's great. It's become like Second Life to a certain degree. And the whole goal and mission of my character was to just be a side character in everyone else's adventures and their stories. Charles White, of course, is a self-insert. I am Charles White, so I put myself in the cyberspace, fucking Code Lyoko style. I jacked in and I put myself in that world, and I thought it'd be fun to just explore the city and go on everyone else's quests as just a little supporting character and just have some fun that way. And since I was in NoPixel 3.0 within the week that it launched, it was completely crazy. No one really had any idea where they wanted to take their characters, and it was just a lot of wild and wacky adventures that I just joined in on like a little hemorrhoid along for the ride. But of course, as the characters developed, everyone started to find their place in the city, and it became less about just going on goofy little quests and adventures and more about building a real, living, breathing society in the game, which is really cool, and they've absolutely been accomplishing that. Like, there is so much lore built up to every character in it, it's crazy. It really is like a completely different world in there now. But that's not a world that Charles White fits into. Yes, I could make another character, but I also just don't really want to have a full-time job in GTA RP. For me, the fun of it was constantly meeting new and interesting people, making new friends, and going on completely chaotic adventures all over the place with people like Kin-sama, Johnny Silverhand, Joseph, Trey. Like, we went on all kinds of like crazy shit in the beginning, but now all of those characters have really established their spot in the city. So those kind of things aren't really super common anymore. So there's just not a whole lot for my character to do, and that was really the fun that I had with the game. I thought it'd be fun, though, to go through the wiki page for Charles White, because there's an entire wiki dedicated to Charles White in the NoPixel server. It's heartbreaking, if I'm being honest, to read some of it, like looking back on it. So let's take a peek. There's that dashing stud Charles White right there. I'm still impressed with how close I was able to get him to resemble me in the game. The only problem is I couldn't make him as short as me. They just didn't have the option to make him that short, which is a little insulting if I'm being honest, but hey, you know, it is what it is. So, Charles White is a character role-played by Moist Critical. That's also me. Some of you may know me as Hunger Games District 8 Hospital Helper or Percy Jackson, but it's all me. Now, direct your attention to the status underneath the picture of Charles White, the little Facebook profile pic. Status is inactive. That made my asshole pucker with sadness. I was so upset to read that right there. It changes the whole tone of this. It makes it sound more like an obituary to Charles White in the NoPixel world. It's just a little sad to see, to be honest. Now let's read the description. Charles White has long black hair with a headband, a beard, tattoos on both arms, a plain white t-shirt, shorts, and his signature boots with a flame design. God, those boots were fucking incredible. Those boots alone were enough to make your girlfriend's panties sodden. They meant business. A lot of people insulted them, but I know that they were actually more just jealous and envious of the fashion sense, and they probably just didn't have access to such an expensive pair of shoes. They also got stolen like 8 times, so I had to keep rebuying those motherfuckers, which were like $200 each visit, which is a lot to a guy without a job who's constantly spending money on hospital care because he keeps getting himself injured drastically. So all of my money was constantly just being pumped into keeping him alive at the hospital. So every time I had to shell out $200 for my new flame shoes, it was a real blow. And that set the character's progress back quite a bit. So then it goes to list my friends like Trey Romano, Chuck Colton, Johnny Silverhand, Kenneth Foreman, Joseph Yorinobu, Little Chloral, and some rivalries like with Mel, Clevin, Forty, and Cletus Cornwood. And now we move on to the personality section. Charles is known to be polite and eager to make new friends. He is fascinated with garbage trucks and becomes excited whenever he sees one passing by. He's constantly looking for action, which lands him in the hospital frequently. He doesn't enjoy being on his lonesome. Instead, he'll actively look for people to befriend and join them on their journeys. The personality section makes it sound like I'm a fucking dog. Yes, Charles White is also potty trained and only barks when he sees the mailman. Now we get to the background. Charles White doesn't have a job. He refers to himself as an explorer. Despite that, he somehow possesses a car, apartment, and a handful of cash, yet pretends that he's homeless and sleeps on the Walk of Fame, specifically on the star of Ogden Wilderpoon. I'd like to set the record straight. I don't pretend to be homeless in GTA RP. I never pretended to be homeless. I actually thought I was. I didn't know I was entitled to an apartment and a car. I didn't know I had those amenities. I thought I was just actually fucking homeless because I didn't have a job. I was constantly just losing money at the hospital. Going to the hospital was like going to a fucking casino for me. I'd go in there and just lose all my fucking money 10 times a night. So I didn't know I had those things. So yes, I became very familiar with the Ogden Wilderpoon Walk of Fame star. I fell asleep on that son of a bitch so many times. That became my home, to the point where the apartment felt foreign to me. I'd often choose to sleep on Ogden Wilderpoon's star. He was like my father figure, reading me bedtime stories. So it wasn't like a facade or a ruse I was trying to pull on anyone. I just didn't know that I wasn't homeless. Charles is often preoccupied as he suffers from minor narcolepsy and a small bladder. I'd also like to explain this section here in the wiki. Charles White in the game never had narcolepsy. It was a plan to get out of going to jail once, because I was caught aiding a robbery in progress, and when questioned by the police, it got intense, and I pretended to faint. But they just waited for me to not be unconscious. They didn't even get the ambulance. They just waited long enough, and I just had to excuse it with narcolepsy, and pretend I didn't hear their questions. The small bladder probably just refers to how often I actually just get up from stream to take a piss. That's very possible. He's very proud of his flaming boots, even though they are generally disliked by the people around him and are stolen frequently. True, but they are great. Not much is known about Charles White before Los Santos. Whenever asked where he comes from, he'll vaguely state something along the lines of, a small little island, you wouldn't have heard of it. It's left to assume he's referring to his place of birth, Tampa, Florida. Yeah, that's more or less what I was referring to. It's a super cute thing in the wiki. I really think it's super wholesome. And again, some of the most fun I've had in gaming recently, like some of the hardest times I've laughed were during No Pixel nights. But as it continued, it just started to become less fun, and not for anyone's fault. Like, everyone has their own fun in their own way, but for me, my character was just always about constantly changing every single time I'd log in. You know, one night we went on a time travel adventure with a guy who had a horrible internet connection, so every time you get in a car, it'd start glitching around and we'd be teleporting around the city, and we RP'd as time travelers, breaking the rift between dimensions and shit like that. And then the next night, we'd go on a cyberpunk adventure with Johnny Silverhand. Like, it was constantly changing, and that's what made it so enjoyable and wild and wacky. And nowadays, I still watch a lot of the No Pixel streamers because I still really enjoy it, but my character just doesn't fit in anymore. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I thought you deserved a more thorough explanation because, yeah, I fucking loved it. Some of the best memories in gaming for me came from No Pixel. Like the fucking... when I was chasing Mel down and Chuck blasts him with the semi-truck, probably still the hardest I've laughed all year. Like, a lot of fun, great memories, but now my character, just, it wouldn't be fun to continue playing that same character, and I don't really have an interest in having a job in the city either. So, I'll just enjoy the content as a spectator as opposed to being active in the Los Santos city. And yeah, that's really about it. I don't know if I'll ever go back to No Pixel, but as of right now, I just don't see the character working super well. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, that's about it. So, yeah.